Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we will be doing a beginner-friendly makeup tutorial utilizing only drugstore branded products. So that means affordable and still cute. If you want to see how I achieved this look, just keep on watching. In order to have a great base for your foundation, you do need to prep your skin before applying your makeup. So this is my prep and prime, which is my normal skincare routine. Let's get started. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is begin with brushing our brows. So you want to ensure that, you just brush it out. Make sure you brush it in the direction that it grows. You want to get that neat because you're going to need that to outline your brows using your pencil. Typically, I do use my Shein She Glam pencil. I love this pencil just because it's like very skinny, and some of the drugstore brands that I do have, they are not skinny. We're going to keep it drugstore, so that's why I'm going to use this, but this is never really my go-to. And then from Sephora, I usually get the Sephora brand pencil because it is similarly skinny. They're like skinny pencils. I like those than the thicker ones, but we'll keep it drugstore branded. Okay, so first you brush your brows. You make sure that is in order. For me, I don't want to change the shape of my face, and so I don't start like making an extra, make my brows start in the beginning, like deep in the beginning, like I'm trying to create a unibrow. So I don't do any of that. I just follow the natural shape of my brow because I'm trying to enhance, not like change my face, right? So I'm going to be using this mirror. So first thing you want to do is begin at the front. You want to go with the light hand because you don't want to make like a big strong black line or brown line or whatever it is. So you start at the very beginning and you're pretty much just going right at the edge of your brow, and you're making a light line outlining the way your brow grows naturally. That's it, step one, right? Sometimes it may not be perfect, but remember, you're going to be cleaning this up with concealer, so don't get too worried if it doesn't look great. Then for the top, I don't start at the very beginning. I don't want it to look like I drew a big box around my eyebrow. So I kind of start at maybe a little bit before the midline of my brow, and I'm just, again, outlining the natural shape of my brow. I also don't want it to be super thick. I just want it to look realistic, clean, and neat. And then you're pretty much just trying to fill in little gaps in your brows. So you just kind of trace over and go with a light hand. It's better to add more than to try to take away something that you did too heavy-handed. So just keep that in mind. Okay, once I do that, I pretty much just start to brush it in to see how it feels. So you want to brush upward to kind of diffuse the product into the brow and create a more natural, realistic look, because that helps your brow to look fuller, right? So, and I don't really worry about the top as much. Like, you do want to pay attention to what you're doing, yes, but it's not about getting the top like very perfect, right? But the bottom, I try to make sure the trace is good because that's where you clean up the most. Okay, so this will suffice for now. I'm going to go ahead and get the other side done, and I'll be right back. Voila, and we're done. This is what we have for now. So this was the Milani pencil, eyebrow pencil, by the way. So this is what we have for now because we're going to add concealer and clean it up and all of that. So now we're going to get into complexion, right? I already showed you how I prepped and primed my skin. If you want to see a little bit more details on that, you can visit one of my other videos because that kind of details what my makeup routine is, and I pretty much just use my skincare routine. Details what my skincare routine is, and my skincare routine is also my makeup primer. So that's how I prep and prime my skin. Whatever your routine is, great. There are also lots of different primers on the market for makeup, so whatever floats your boat. But I just love to do my natural skincare as a prep and prime for makeup. So what we're going to be using is the CoverGirl True Blend Undercover Concealer. Again, these are all going to be drugstore brands. If I forget to mention what I'm using, I will try to link it. Put it in the description. So you're going to use a flat edge brush, kind of like this, or whatever you have. Some people like to use an angled brush. This is what I use. I use what I have. And you're basically going to try to go with a steady hand, outlining your brow just as you did with the pencil. So this can make or break how your brows come out, and we love our brows being neat. So I'm going to be quiet while I try to outline, but the key is a steady hand and tracing in a straight line, as in the outline of your brow, not just a straight line. Okay. And you just kind of look to see what it looks like. To me, this is looking pretty good. I don't need to do much here. Yeah, I think this is good for me. And then you do the same thing on the other side, and that's where we will leave the brows at for now. Okay, so here we have the outline of both of our brows, so we'll leave it at that for now. We're still gonna go back a little bit later and add a little bit more product to fully complete the brow, but this is what it'll be for now. Also, you're using a shade. Some people may like to use a lighter tone than their actual skin color. I like to go with a more closer concealer shade to my skin, but you can use a lighter concealer for a highlight effect. Okay, once we've done with our brows in terms of outlining, we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of coverage on top of our lids. So you place the product and then you begin to blend that out, and you want to try to make that as seamless as possible. So you just blend. You take a look, see what it's looking like, and if you need to do a little bit more blending, you do that. You want to ensure that it kind of blends in with the outline of the brow where you used the concealer, so you're making everything come together in a sense. Okay, so now that you've placed the concealer on your lids and you've blended that out, now you're going to set it with a powder because you don't want it to move, and that's what the powder does, is kind of hold the concealer in place, setting. So I'm using this CoverGirl Mineral Loose Powder. It has a little bit of shimmer. This is not something that I would typically use, but I don't have anything else right now, so we're gonna make this work. I don't have anything else that is drugstore category loose powder, so we're going to use this and make it work, because you can use whatever you want, whatever works for you, whatever you have, as long as you come out flawless, honey. That's it. Okay, so once we've, so this is kind of a vibe. I've never used this, but it made me think. All right, so once we've set our lids with powder, we're gonna go ahead and start with the complexion piece. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is conceal. So if you have any acne scars or hyperpigmentation or anything like that, you want to use concealer to cover that up, right? So, and also some people may have acne scars or hyperpigmentation a little bit worse, so you may need to color correct. I'm not going to color correct just because I don't typically color correct, even if I'm done with my makeup and I'm still seeing some of my scars coming through. It's like, honestly, doesn't bother me that much, but if it's something that you need to do, then you may need to color correct. So right now we're just going to spot cover the areas that have a little bit more pigment on your face, or you know, wherever you feel like you need a little bit more coverage. You're just adding concealer to that. Usually I use my Fenty concealer, but this is Black Radiance foundation stick, so that's what we use because it's drugstore brand and we want to keep it in the theme. Next thing you're going to do is kind of blend that out, diffuse that, because the next step is going to be adding concealer. So you go ahead and just blend that out. You're using a concealer shade close to your skin tone, close to your skin tone, because you want to ensure that it blends in when you actually do add your foundation on your entire face. And honestly, I don't get too worried about sometimes like foundation stuff not matching or whatever, because I just feel like everything comes together. It all works out in the end. That's my approach to life. It all works out in the end. I'm not gonna go too crazy. I'm not hurting my head, not too much. And then if you do need to add more product because you need a little bit more coverage, then go ahead and do that. Again, usually I don't do this. Like, I'm literally not even using foundation for my general makeup routine. You can check out another short video on my channel which shows what my general makeup routine, my go-to makeup routine is. Before I used to take like hours to do makeup. Like, girl, I'm not doing that no more. I done gave that up. It's not me. I've retired from that. Now I'm just trying to go simple. I'm not trying to spend 2 hours to do makeup alone. Yeah, I'm not trying to do that. Okay, now that you've done that, we're gonna move into our foundation. Okay, so what we're going to be using is the Maybelline Fit Me. I have 330 and 360 here, just because I don't think they had a shade between those two for me. So one is actually very much lighter than my actual skin and one is darker than my actual skin. So what I typically do is blend them, and so I have them on this palette. So this is the lighter shade, this is the darker shade, right? The lighter shade is 330, the darker shade is 360. So we're going to just get that, we're going to start with the lighter shade. We're going to apply the lighter shade first. And again, if you want to add more product, then you can, but always go a little bit lighter rather than darker. And then you're just going to apply that all over your face and blend that out. Lighter meaning not heavy-handed. And then but in terms of shade, you do want to start with the lighter shade, because then you can actually blend that out with the darker one. So that's what we're going to do here. Ow! Why did I go my eye like that? Oh. So, and it also depends on the time of the year it is. Like, sometimes I feel like the lighter shade matches me or it doesn't look as crazy. Like now I feel like it doesn't look as crazy, but there are times when, like during the summer, which is now, which is kind of wild, during the summer it's like I'm a little bit darker. I'm gonna go in with I just dabbed a little bit, like a little bit, right? I literally can't even tell that I picked up some of this product. But I'm gonna add a brown, the darker shade around, just to give me a little bit more color. So I'm just adding it all over, that's it. And then I'm blending it out. You can mix this as well before you actually, you can mix both shades before you actually apply it to your skin. You can also use a beauty blender. This is especially my forehead, because my forehead is more exposed. Your forehead is generally more exposed to the sun, so you will realize that even if it matches on the other sections of your face, it may not match on your forehead. So you may need to go in with a little bit more dark on the top so it matches. See? That's what I'm telling you. You can always fix anything. Don't go too crazy thinking, oh my god, it's not like, you can fix it. And that's why I said always start with the lighter shade before the darker shade. So you can why am I not focused? You can gradually build up to making it work out for you. You can gradually build up. Ooh. Okay. I feel like I'm okay with this. I don't know. My nose is, I sweat on my nose, all types of stuff happening. Yeah, I don't know, girl. I don't know. So sometimes I feel that's also a part of the reason I don't go too crazy with makeup and foundation on my nose. Like, I don't use foundation in my general makeup routine because I feel like I be sweating it off. It'd be just interrupt the whole thing. Like, no. I don't like that. Okay. So now that we have that done and taken care of, I like how this look. This is sufficient for me for now. We're gonna go in with concealer, so this works for me. Okay, so now because we used a dewy base foundation, I'm going to use the Satin e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer, and we're going to apply that in the T-zone area of her face. I'm going with a lighter shade depending on the type of highlight that you want, the level of highlight that you want. Then you know what, you'll decide what shade works for you depending on how you like that looking. So pretty much you're just applying that in the T-zone areas. I feel like this may be a little bit too, I don't know. Honestly, I have not used this in such a long time, so we'll see what happens. So you want to apply like that, right? And then we're going to blend this out. Again, what I like to do is use a little bit and then I can add more if I want to. So I'm going to use this flat brush. This is from EcoTools. This is my favorite brush. I've had this at least 6-7 years. I've been using this every single time I do my makeup. So you want to get a brush. You can also use a beauty blender. I'll do the beauty blender on one side and the brush on one side so we can kind of see how the difference. But I don't typically like the beauty blender just because I think it picks up a lot of the product and it's not really what I'm going for, you know. So I don't want to remove the product. So you're just dabbing and it's kind of like you're diffusing the product to get that gradient. And if you really pay close attention to your face, you will realize that you are darker on the outer side, the outer edges of your face. So you want to create a similar look. That's the idea with your product placement. You want to create that lighter effect in the middle, a little bit more bronzing around the edges, and so that's what you're going for, and that's how you should apply your makeup and blend it out in that fashion as well, right? Again, I'm not going to go too crazy. If I want to add a little bit more there, I will, but we're going to be adding more products and blending things together, so it will all work out, right? And then you do the same thing under your eyes. You can move in more of like a triangular direction. So that is kind of like the natural flow of your face and the gradient effect with your skin tones. Like, as again, the outer sides are darker, the inner sides are usually lighter, so you're going in that triangular motion. Also, I'm sorry for the noise from the AC. I just don't know how to prevent that, and I don't have like a mic to clean up the sound. So okay, so we use the brush on one side. We're gonna use a beauty blender on one side, and then some people also like to allow the concealer to set in, like dry down a little bit, so it doesn't like pick up too much of the product. But again, this is not my favorite thing to use. Like, I just think it doesn't really do it for me, you know. But if it works for you, then do it. For me, this is not my favorite thing to use. I mean, it doesn't look too bad. It's okay. I'm going to add a little bit more on this side, and then I'm going to use my brush because I just want it to be very even. Again, don't go too heavy because you can always add more product as you need, but it's harder to take away. Imagine blend this out and be like, oh, I put too much, I want to take it off. How do you do that? How? Exactly. You don't know. So maybe a guru can tell you how to do that, but I can't tell you because, yeah. Okay. If I need to add more, I am going to add more on the other side to balance it out, because I feel like this is, it's just like, yeah, no, I don't like I feel like this side came out more seamless. So I don't know, let me try to add more on this side. Let's see. I hope I'm not messing this up. Do that. And it's just figuring it out as you go. Like, you have to, with makeup, it's just practice. If I show you some of my earlier makeups that I tried doing or playing around with, you would laugh in my face, like, and I thought I was doing something. But it takes practice to learn what works for you, what your preferences are, and just getting techniques down. One of the most important things in makeup application is blending, so you need to get that right. I still feel like there's a gap right here, but whatever, we'll figure it out. Okay, so now that we have that done, now we're going to be setting all of this with foundation powder, our powder foundation, or loose powder. That's what we're going to use to set where all of the liquid products that we just used. So we're going to be using the Airspun Translucent Extra Coverage powder under our eyes. As you can see, brand new. I've never used this, like, with a lot of makeup stuff that I have, like tons of drugstore makeup stuff, like ridiculous amounts. I have all these things that I've never used. So we're going to be using this under our eyes. Again, I've never used this, so we're figuring it out as we go along. I'm going to see how it comes out. So I'm just going to use a little brush to pick up the powder, tap off the excess, and then I'm going to begin to gently place the product under my eye. I honestly do not like how the concealer blended under my eye, but I think we can fix it. See, I have a really big issue with separation. I did another video, so please check that out. It's because I'm trying to stay in the theme of ooh, this smells so good. I'm trying to stay in the theme of drugstore product, so I'm not going to veer off, because the other video on my channel that has a primer, I use the Rock Eye Balm as a primer for my concealer, because this even happens with my Sephora makeup and stuff, and I felt like I had a way better result. Like the Rock Eye Balm as a primer, yeah, that, like, this is always my issue, makeup separating even before I complete my makeup, and you'll hear me say that in the video because it really is true. And I just feel like the eye balm held up really well as a primer. Okay, so we placed that there. We're gonna do the same thing everywhere you place the concealer. And a translucent powder pretty much just takes the shade of what you already have, but typically, like in the past, I've realized when I use translucent powder, it doesn't photograph well. You'll see that I forgot what they call it, but you'll see that big outline of wherever you place the powder when you, especially like at night, like flashback. I think that's what they call it, flashback, and that's just not cool, right? So that's not what we want. So I stopped using translucent powder because I used to use an e.l.f. one. All right, so we're gonna pause there with that. Now we're going to be using our powder that is closer to our complexion to set everywhere where we did not add concealer. So pretty much we're avoiding these areas, the T-zone area, and we're placing it everywhere else where we had the foundation shade. So let me get my powder. So I'm not using bronzer. So I'm going to be using the Fresh Wear, L'Oreal Infallible Fresh Wear. This is in Copper 365, and honestly barely use this as well. I have so much makeup that I barely use, guys. So we're actually testing out stuff right now. So I don't know if it's like some things apply, they go on darker. See, like I can tell this is like a little bit darker, but I'm pretty much just setting. Oh, I forgot to do my bronzer, but I guess we'll just use powder instead, because you don't want to put liquid on top of powder, and because we already started placing the powder, it's like we're not gonna use. And then you would kind of want to go around where you place the concealer so that you have that gradient effect. You have the gradient effect where it's just blurring out like the edges. Like you should not be able to see definitive lines of where you placed light concealer and light powder, you know, versus where it needs to just flow, diffuse the lines. That's the goal. So okay, great. So we set our face. Ooh, let me do my nose. Again, you are setting everywhere except your concealed areas, like your highlight areas, which is essentially the T-zone area. Once you're done with that, oh, I love how this looks. All right, so once you're done with that, you can start bronzing. Actually, let's do our eyes. We're going to add a little bit. Again, this is beginner friendly, so we're not doing anything crazy. We're not doing too much on the eyes or anything like that. We just need a little bit of definition, a little bit of okay. So what we're going to be using is the L'Oreal Infallible bronzer in shade 450. We're going to use that as a transition shade, so the first shade, the base shade. And we're going to use kind of like a fluffy brush, just something to, you know, generally apply to your lids. Close your eye, and you're just sweeping back and forth, windshield wiper motion, sweeping back and forth. If you want to add a little bit more, feel free to go ahead and do that. This is why we prepped the lids earlier at the beginning, because you were getting prepared to add your eye color, right? Okay, so you do that, and then I'm going to do the other side. Okay, so once we're done with that 450 shade, we're going to go in with a darker shade, which is going to be 500 L'Oreal. We're going to use a smaller brush because this will be a more defining brush, and so you use that previous base shade because once you add the darker shade, it will just have that gradient effect, and that's what we're trying to accomplish. So we're going to pick up a little bit. Again, you want to start lighter or with a lighter hand when you're applying, so that if you need to add more, you can add more, but to try to take away or reduce after you've applied is very difficult. So we're going to add the darker shade, and you're just sweeping back and forth. You're using a more defined brush, still loose but a little bit more defined, so that you can be a little bit more precise with the application. And you're going from the outer V of your eye to the inner V, just sweeping back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and you diffuse as needed. See? Simple. Nothing too crazy, nothing too difficult. You just want to add a little bit of depth and definition to the lid. That's it. Okay, now we're done with that. We're going to be using the same two shades to do our bronzer. And the goal is to outline the parameters of your face. Not outline, but just kind of add the powder around the parameters of your face. So you want to, I'm using the lighter shade first just to kind of as a transition shade, because I'm going to add the darker one. So you're sweeping in an upward motion right where you have that sink where the bone starts on your cheek, you're trying to go right there and upward towards the temple. So sweeping like that, right above the sink of your face, or the sink of your cheek, your jawbone. And you're doing that on the other side. It just makes for a better outline or transition when you add the darker shade. So you're just sweeping that all around. And you're going into your hairline because you want it to flow properly. So once you do that, you're going to be using a more precise brush. Again, if this works for you, everybody does their makeup very differently. This is a darker shade and it's very pigmented, so you want to be careful about picking up products. So I literally just tap. I don't pick too much up because, again, it is easier to add more than to try to reduce. And then you just start to tap to see where you're placing it and to ensure you're getting the right placement. Ooh, I think I added too much. And then you're going up into the temple area with your little face, and you add product. Okay, and then we're going to blend that out. I don't think I need to add more. Let me just add some around the jawline, just to give it like a little bit more definition. And I like to just kind of come up to around like in a circle around the chin, so your chin is just kind of like highlighted. Like I told you, you want everything to flow, so you are essentially diffusing where the application of the concealer and the powder is, so everything just kind of is gradient rather than like, oh, this is where I put my concealer, this is where this stops. You don't want that. So I'm gonna blend that out. And you can also use the fluffier brush to just kind of blend. And sometimes you may see I feel like this is like a little bit darker, but I'm also going to add blush here. So again, I'm not too worried. Remember your pack, you're adding product, layers of product. So sometimes, yes, it is important to blend your product out properly in each phase, but again, don't go too crazy about things not being 100% perfect, because it works out in the end. Okay, it all comes together, full circle. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is use the same 2 shades of bronzer to add a little bit of color underneath the waterline of the eye. And again, you start with the light shade and then you use the dark shade. You're just sweeping that under the lining of the eye. Okay, once you do that, you're adding the darker shade. Earspun powder smells so good. This is very pigmented again, so you want to be very light with your application. Okay, I feel like this is good. Yeah, this works. once you do that, I think now we can go ahead and add some blush. So I'm going to be using these two shades. One is from Physicians Formula and, is it? Yeah, Physicians Formula and L'Oreal. So I've been using a lot of L'Oreal products today. I'm going to go with this shade first, and then I'm going to add the lighter one on top. This has a little bit of shimmer, cute vibes or whatever. So you can use either side. I use both. So let's use this, and I'm going to add it to the high point of my cheek, and you're sweeping in the same motion that you added your bronzer. You can smile, and like I said, this has a highlight in it, so cute vibes, you know, it's a little shimmer. Okay, I think I'm good with that. Then I'm going to use the opposite end to add the lighter shade. Oh, it's cute. It's giving a little Barbie. And then if you feel like it's not blended out properly, you just go over with your brush and just keep diffusing so everything can flow. Okay, cute vibes, cute vibes, cute vibes. Sometimes people may add like a little bit of blush like to the top of their lids, a little bit here, a little bit on the nose. I actually want to do a little bit of contouring on my nose, so I'm going to be using this brush. I'm going to be using the same powders, the same two bronzing powders on both sides, tapping off the excess, and then you're going in a line, and the goal is to carry it up into the dip of the space between your eye and your brow. So going like so. And then you bring it up into that space. It gives it a more natural flow. Okay, so we did that. Now we're gonna add a little bit of a darker shade. My nose is wider. I'm not trying to get a skinny nose, but I am just trying to have like definition. Again, the goal is to have it look as natural as possible when you're doing your face. So you're not trying to do too much. I mean, like I said, I don't know, some people may be trying to change their whole face. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to enhance. So keep that in mind, whatever works for you. For me, I'm just like enhancing. So you don't want to add too much product. That's also key, and we will kind of blend that out. You just want to diffuse any harsh lines. You don't want it to look like crazy, you feel me? Here, that's all it is. You're just trying to get a little bit of definition. And then what I also like to do is add a little bit of powder down. You can also add concealer down the bridge of the nose to keep this in a more simplified fashion. We won't add concealer today, but we will add the powder because this acts as highlight as well. That's it. You bring it down and you diffuse it. That's it. Nothing too crazy. Alright, so once you see, this is a separation issue under the eye. See that? Yeah, it's real difficult. It's just based on how your eye is But like I said, the Rock Eye Balm helped with my makeup the other day, and so I think that's what I will be using moving forward underneath my eyes. Now that we're done with that, we'll go ahead and set our face with the e.l.f. We'll go ahead and set our face with the e.l.f. Microfine Misting Spray. So now this is to just kind of bring back a little bit of life into your face because you've added all of this powder and stuff. So now you want to bring a little bit of life into your face and set everything together. And then you want to fan that dry. I use this old birthday card. Fan, fan, fan. So now we're going to go back to the brows. We're going to add a little bit of brow gel just to fill in any gaps. Again, you don't have to do this. Your eyebrow pencil can work just as well with this. Why am I going down in my chair? Oh, there we go. Your eyebrow pencil can continue to do this, but I typically like when I'm doing a full face to use the brow gel to kind of help fill in any gaps. This is from CoverGirl. The gel is from the pot. It is from CoverGirl. Again, you know how these brands like to discontinue stuff, so I don't know if they still carry this, but you know, you can check. It's a little potty. I think they still carry it. And then you'll just fill it in on both sides. Whatever empty spaces is what you're trying to fill in, and you want to go with upward strokes because you're trying to create that hair-like streaks, so your eyebrow looks fuller. That's the goal. Great. Now that that's done, I'm going to add a little bit more product. I like this. It works for me. This, they don't carry this anymore. I'm actually really upset. This is from Maybelline. I've had this for years. Honestly, I think this is empty, but I am I'm hanging on to dear life because I love this. It has the hair-like, fiber. I think this is actually not the right hair, but it has this fiber here in it. It helps to look realistic. But yeah, and then I just add that to my brow to add any little hairs to help fill in gaps. Again, go with a light hand so you're not too heavy, and you can add where you need. You go to the tail and you add there. Go to the beginning, you add there. Don't go too heavy-handed and too crazy. Once you've done that, then you're essentially just brushing it in, so again everything flows. Whatever you do, you're brushing afterward. Ooh, sorry. Okay, so just brushing, diffusing everything, and allowing it to be seamless. This works for me. That works for me. Again, everyone's style and preference is different, so you just do what works for you. You know how you like your brows. This is how I like mine, essentially. And some days are better than some. Some days are better than others. Some days I'm like, ooh, my brow ate down. Some days I'm just like, okay, yeah, well, this will suffice. So that's good. I think we're pretty much done with brows on my end. What's going on here? I think I cut a piece of the hair yesterday, so now I feel like it's all weird. Whatever, that works for me. So now that we're done with brows, we're going to go ahead and add mascara. I'm going to use Better Than Sex. I love this brand. It is not a drugstore brand. This is actually from Sephora, but because I don't have a drugstore brown, I won't be, yeah, I'm gonna use this. So you can get a drugstore brown mascara, but I like to add a coat of brown before I do my black. I just feel like it looks better. I feel like the black doesn't really work for me, and also I like using brown mascara if I'm not doing makeup, but I do want to add mascara. I feel like that looks a little bit better than using black. I feel like black just looks odd when I'm not in makeup, and you know, so my no makeup days, not my no makeup days, my no makeup days, like my bare skin days, if I want to add mascara, I'm going to use brown, not black. But I love black when I'm doing makeup, but I realize that I also like brown and black, so that's why we're doing brown and black today. I'm gonna do the bottom and I'll be right back. Okay, so now I'm gonna be using the telescopic lift from L'Oreal. I did the black on this side, so I'm going to add it to this side now. And just a word of advice, if you ever mess your mascara up, like smudge it on your face, just allow it to dry, and then it's easier to remove, like to flake it off that way, because if you try to wipe it off when it's wet, you're making a way bigger disaster. You're gonna be like so upset, like, I'm not going anymore, I'm just, fuck this. And I like this wand because it has like a little comb, so you can just like comb it through, comb it down. That's actually really cool. Okay, so let me add a little bit more to the top. Whatever, I'm not gonna go so crazy, because if I mess this up, I'm gonna be really upset. Okay, so that's our mascara all done. And you also want to do your setting spray before you do your mascara, because you don't want to wet it up and then you'll risk smudging the mascara on your face if you spray after you've applied your mascara. So now that's done, I think now we can move on to lips. I like what my face is looking like right now. This is pretty simple, pretty general. So we're going to be doing lip liner and then lip gloss. Now we're going to be doing lips. So this is a Maybelline Lifter Liner, lip liner. You're just going to outline your lips. Sorry. I like to add a little bit of pink gloss, and this is from Revlon. It's like a milky pink. Cute. Okay, it's not bad, it's not bad, it's not bad. This wouldn't typically be the lip liner that I would use, but since we're keeping it in the drugstore brand, then yeah, that's what we did. Ooh. So here you have it. I think we're all done. I mean, if you want to do any additional touch-ups, you can feel free to do that. You kind of assess what your makeup is looking like as you are going through the steps in the process. This is the finished look. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was detailed. I hope it was helpful for all the beginner girlies out there. It just takes practice and repetition and building technique and getting better at your technique, and also changing as the time goes by, because techniques are updated and there are new ways to do it. So hopefully this was helpful for you, and I'm looking forward to doing more videos in the future. I hope you love this look, because I really love this look. I think it is smooth. This is all drugstore branded products, so very affordable. You can still get a glamorous look with affordable product. Don't go breaking the bank and buying goods at Sephora. They all do the same thing. I promise you, it's all about the hype and the marketing. But thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Have a great day.